Hey everybody, I'm back. Quicker than you expected. Quicker than I expected. Well, I guess I wasn't done talking about Ghostrider, one of my favorite characters. When I left off, I wasn't keen on the series. I let it go for a while, and it just sort of became a generic story where Johnny Blaze would be captured, and he turns to Ghostrider, and he sizzles everybody with the soul fire, and they all start, freaking out. It was very much a revenge book. It went from a superhero book for many years to a revenge book, and Michael Fleischer took over as a writer, and that's always been his sweet spot. He wrote The Spectre with Jim Aparo, where the Spectre would turn a bad guy into wood and saw him up into pieces. Just really wild stuff. And he's also done a Jonah Hex. He did 92 issues of Jonah Hex plus more issues of Weird Western Tales that had Jonah Hex. So he's very much into the revenge business, and he does it well. So this is a reprint for 7 issues. They had a double-sized series that started off with about the last year of the book. It went on to become monthly eventually, and instead of Fleischer laid the groundwork to make both Ghostrider and Johnny two separate entities, kind of like Bruce Banner and the Hulk. But Johnny would always get sickened after he found out what the Ghostrider would cause, not just capturing a bad guy, but hitting him with the soul fire, which is a thing that basically all of a sudden you're tormented and haunted for the rest of your known life. And it was later on, a similar idea was used in the 90s with the penance stare, and that was something Howard Mackey wrote, and that went on for a while. It got real popular because it's been like a decade since there was a Ghostrider, and the new one was Danny Ketch. Well, Johnny Blaze, he was done being the Ghostrider, and he showed up later by fan demand, and he got his own series, I think. He would team up with Ghostrider later, which was very odd, and a book called Spirits of Vengeance, but it was wildly popular, so this was a rare bird because reprints, single-issue reprints, or with regular paper had really gone out of favor. Like Marvel Tales with Spider-Man was pretty much the last one, but people later on, they just wanted it's in a expensive format, or it's a square bound or whatever, or I'm not buying it. So anyway, here's something interesting. This is from, I think, issue it doesn't tell you. It's from like issue 69, I think it is. One last thing I want to mention about Ghostrider. The reason his longevity, the main reason I think his longevity is the imagery. He lasted from 73 to 81. And Ghostrider, he was just the right character at the right time, because in the early and mid 70s, motorcycle culture was huge in America. After Easy Rider. Yeah, then you had like Hell's Angels, and then you had a bunch of other biker groups and stuff like that. And then you just had casual people who got motorcycles. It just became a real big deal. And Evel Knievel was a huge star. He was always jumping things, sometimes in Caesar's Palace in Vegas, where he falls and he gets all busted up, and that was like a big deal. People loved that. And Evel Knievel wasn't the only one doing it. So I don't think they would really do much of that today. I mean, with lawsuits and insurance and all that stuff, I just think, is a thing of the past. And, it is a snapshot of the 70s. Well, as the 80s came on, I think, just around the bend, I think the interest in the book waned, because motorcycle oriented stuff, it was like the zeitgeist of the 70s. Zeitgeist, not Geist. And going into the 80s, it was kind of over. It was kind of done. When you become such a big part of a decade, when the new decade comes along, sometimes people are just kind of, move along. However, I started picking up these books again because Roger Stern and Bob Budiansky and Dave Simons just really gave us an amazing ghostwriter, and he was nasty, nasty. And here, what they retconned the book. They completely retconned. It wasn't the generic devil character. It was actually Mephisto, the Marvel's version of the devil, featuring a startling and all-new retelling of the origin of the ghostwriter. And beautiful art. I love that. There's Roger Stern, Bob Budiansky, Joe Rubenstein. He does some great work too. This guy comes into church, and it's Johnny Blaze. He's confessing all the things he's done as a ghostwriter, and basically tells his origin story, which we've seen before. In fact, a lot of these panels are verbatim from what Plug had drawn. He goes on and on and on. I got nothing to say for the moment. Then he does, I'm going to call Satan / Mephisto. He's like, I'll help I'll cure your father figure of cancer. And surely enough, he does, but Crash Simpson does what his name suggests. He crashes and dies. And then he was going to start taking over the business, and he was changing out of his leathers, as he calls them. When my head started throbbing, I felt feverish dizzy, and then, as I watched in horror, the figure in the mirror suddenly caught fire. I could feel the flesh being seared off my bones from being changed into something different, something awful. In seconds, Johnny Blaze was burned away, and Demon stood in his place. The Demon the men would call Ghostrider. And this is a whole different thing. He wasn't like, your generic superhero from the 70s who just had a really cool gimmick. They play him out to be really evil, and even though he takes out evil people, he's kind of, I don't want to say Dirty Harry, that's kind of not exactly a good example, but he basically exacted revenge in like the worst possible way. He wouldn't even kill his victims. He would just give them haunted nightmares for the rest of their life as their soul is being torn apart through his hellfire. And so you can see why I dig this. It's pretty fun. So he's still confessing to the priest, and he says, what bothers me the most, Father, is that sometimes I want him to get out. I'll see some punks beating an old woman or hear about a woman being attacked, and I'll want to change into the Ghostrider and give the guilty what they deserve. I'll harbor such feelings from time to time, son. That's why I not having fingernails. And he's like, what have I got myself into? I should have been out of here, but I'm not prepared to deal with that lunatic. Father, you still there? He says, go on with your confession. There's not much more left to tell, except, tonight I was headed into town by a backcountry road when I saw a man cross a ditch lying. A man lying in a ditch, a man who had been left for dead. The man was a priest, Father. Before he died, he told me how his murderer had waylaid him and stolen his clothing. That last part puzzled me until I saw all the gold in this place. Quite a haul, isn't it? By the way, the priest died by arms. I knew what I had to do. Wow. Ouch. And so he chases after him. But Ghostrider at this point, he takes his sweet time to exact revenge. Like, he wants to scare the shit out of them. He could easily take them on in no time. But he just loves tormenting the evil characters. And he pulls the fake priest off the track. Says, "What are you doing? You're freeing me? Aren't you going to let me get run down by a train?" Of course not. Death is too good for the likes of you. So we were established that a lot of those issues that I had shown you before, they've been retconned. Maybe you could still count them as the same stories, but they would have, Zaranthos, which is the name for Ghostrider's demon, named here for the first time. And love that black and white. Yeah, Sleepwalker. still a crappy logo. Ugh. Well, there's this. Here we go. Roger Stern, Bob Budiansky, and Dave Simons comes on board. He was a great inker. He passed away some time ago. I love those rocks. But there's actually an award for him, giving to some Inkpot award. Not Inkpot, but some kind of inking award that happens every year. Various. Over various inkers, the best, most popular, the most, I don't know. With Dave Simons, there's a special award in his name. So here we go again. It's like totally screwed with people before he kills them. And let's go to issue 2. These are not new covers. They just reprint the covers from before, but what covers they are. And 2 of 7. It's got, wow, it's pretty amazing. It's got a little touch of Wrightson to it. And it's a carnival that Johnny Blaze ends up joining. A lot of stuff going on with Simon's work. He did some stuff for What If as well, both the first series and the second. Excuse me. Much better. And it's actually pretty spooky because Don Perlin did a great job in the book, but the part where Johnny Blaze turning into Ghostrider and then him taking out the bad guy, it looked a little too comic booky. This has more of a bit of a horror touch to it, and I mentioned this before that horror and however you say it, he never really was embraced fully by the horror in the horror genre, and then later on he did become that way. He delighted in tormenting evildoers. So, wow, what a great cover. Budiansky and Simon. Well, like I said, the very last Marvel Masterworks will be including these, but I just couldn't wait. I used to have these individual issues, but when these reprints came out, I just grabbed them. I'm like, well, they're cheaper, and that's fine by me. Okay, also Budiansky and Simons. Are we still with Roger Stern? Yeah. So Roger Stern, total retcon of how Zaranthos, for one thing, Zaranthos, Mephisto, and the fact that it's right off the bat, Ghostrider was a different character from Johnny Blaze. He had to share a body. So that's an okay cover, I guess. Now that is a cover. You know what? I actually think it was this cover that got me to buy the book again. In fact, I'm certain of it. Because wow, that is stunning. By Budiansky and Simons. See, like you used to see the Hulk trapped into Bruce Banner kind of yelling at him. It's even more intense with Ghostrider. He's like, trapped by Mephisto's fiery pits. I'm trapped once again, locked inside the subconscious of Johnny Blaze, denied contact with the physical world, and all because of that motorcycling fool. Stern, Budiansky, Simons, etc. And there's some more of those color holds I talked about with the books that you can put 3D glasses on and see a different. You can see him pop, the imagery pop. Anyway, Circus of Crime attacks him. There's the clown, who's been around since, I think Spider-Man number 16 from 1964, or I think maybe Avengers number 60 with the wedding of Yellow Jacket and the Wasp. So, he's just outshining all of them, if the opposite of outshining him. He picks up his flaming motorcycle and throws it. He doesn't even have to do that, but he's enjoying it. He's savoring this, and it's pretty sick. But it makes sense with how the character developed, and how problematic he became. So he catches up to the clown, who always just kind of was a low-level character, just a crook, and, well, the tears of a clown. And then he finds out from this friend of his that the clown was not guilty of something, and he does not have a radar sense about guilty, but he is quick to punish. So he's just horrified what Zaranthos did. And who's that guy's name? I think his name's Red or something like that. Yeah, Red. So so the book's really getting interesting, and it's very much a horror comic with some superhero trappings rather than the other way around. That's a great cover. This is on newsprint still. I love newsprint. I really miss it. You know, comics would be more affordable, and sometimes if I want to read a comic, the glare is just annoying. You know, the reflection from the light or the sun or, what have you. I love this environment. Look at that. That's beautiful stuff. Yeah, Simons was always one of those guys who was not necessarily celebrated, but I always had my eye out on him, and I wanted to be an inker when I got older. And I know it sounds silly, to have that kind of basic goal, but I loved inking. I love the visual impact that the proper inker could have on a book, or a shitty inker may be detrimental. Lots of beautiful work. Legion of the Night. Okay, this is when Marvel started getting into Gerber, Portaccio. I forgot about that. Legion of the Night was a one-time book, I think, in Marvel in the 70s. They brought it back, and alongside this reprint, as I mentioned, Ghostrider got a whole new character, a whole new visual style, a different host body, and he blew up in popularity because he had been around for a decade, and just the visual appeal, as I said before, and you got some excellent artists like Javier Salteras and then Texiera. So they built a lot of these Marvel horror titles, or Midnight Suns, and they had quite a big success with it. I mean, they had probably 5 titles out. That's just great. Look at that. Using a little China marker / grease pencil on the shading on that woman. Steel Wind. Now J.M. DeMatteis, as I had promised, was returning, or was showing up. But Bediansky, Dave Simons, she's come to challenge Blaze as like, oh, I'm the better driver. I'm the better stunt cyclist. Well, I'm going to pass that in case you don't want any spoilerific stuff. I know some of the stuff I've spoiled, but not gross quantity. Love that cover. I keep saying that, but this was finally Ghostrider was cool. I just got so tired. I mean, like I said, I dropped it after that stupid ass UFO issue that I showed last time. Tom Perlin steps in, but Dave Simons is there to keep the feel going. But I strongly recommend these books, and probably 3-4 years from now, we'll see them in Marvel Masterworks that I had mentioned. Revealed at last, the secret origin of the demon who dwells within Johnny Blaze. So that's what he looks like, actually, the demon. He's skeletal, but not like a human skeleton. Let's see. Tim Zubin does the inks on this. He's one of those guys who didn't last very long for whatever reason, Tim Zubin. But it basically tells you about this one demon who he got punished by being bonded on Earth with Johnny Blaze. So it was both sides. Both of them were tormented by the other. And this is all according to this retcon. I mean, it's a major league retcon, but to me it works. If it didn't, I need a drink of water. Bear with me. Oh, that's better. Okay. Love that imagery. Color hold. Now there's Nightmare, Doctor Strange's old foe. A lot going on. I'm trying to show you. I'm trying to figure out how much I can show you. But Buddy Yaski's, he can draw motorcycles, and maybe that's why Perlin did on Ghostrider. Oh, you know what? I remember Don Perlin said he liked doing the flaming motorcycle because he could have the flames cover up any of the hard parts of the motorcycle. And, you know, I didn't notice that till he mentioned it. And that's the beginning of the Marvel Masterworks. And what's interesting is Tom DeFalco, who created the Marvel Masterworks line of books, the latest Spider-Man Marvel Masterworks cover his era of Spider-Man with Ron Friends. So it's come full circle 30 plus years later. So you got these like half motorcycle, half bikers. So yeah, the circus sort of becomes his new home, which he hadn't done for so long. He just went from, town to town, either chasing somebody or being chased out of town. Now, the last two issues are in this issue. So, wow. Okay, there we go. Tim DeZubin stepped in. Roxanne Simpson makes her return after a long time. I mean, the last time she showed up, I think, was an issue, 35 or 40. And this reprints number 80. There's a lot of blah, 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 blah. There's a little too much of that stuff. But I guess they wanted the new reader to, Jim Shooter had he had the phrase, every comic is someone's first comic. And I get that. But at this point, I think some of the sentences could be chopped a bit and still be effective. Like, when I write my novels, I do a lot of editing where I'll have a redundant sentence, even if it's a great line. Like, if I have two great lines that say the same thing, I kill one of them because I don't want the reader to become bored. So there's a little too much of this yappity yap stuff. But that was sort of the norm for a long time. I mean, even before Jim Shooter. I think it goes back to people saying all kinds of copy that Stan Lee and Roy Thomas would add to their pages. They just felt obliged to do the same. The end of the Ghostrider. And it truly is. I ain't gonna spoil it for you. So, check this out. Really affordable. You can get them at your local comic shops probably for next to nothing. That's about it. I didn't plan to go this long, but I couldn't deprive you of this. Also, one last note. Thank you for watching my episodes. I really mean that, because I do no advertising. That's why you're not getting interrupted with commercials. I'm not making any money off of it. And right now, this episode's going into 25 minutes. And if you're still watching, you chose to watch my channel for 25 minutes, / half hour. And that means a lot. There's so many avenues of entertainment in all kinds of formats. And I really appreciate each and every one of you who have subscribed and who have liked my videos. And also, please leave more comments down below, because I love interacting with people who have something to add to all this. I just learned about the Jonah Hex reprint. Excuse me. See, I went on too long. I just learned about the Jonah Hex reprint from 2 episodes ago. So, anyway, thanks again, and have a great day.